Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Shaw here, ready to go. And today we are going to finish the executive branch and really just talk about what the executive branch actually does. We've talked a lot about the powers, about the roles of the president, qualifications, stuff like that. But right now we're going to get to the nitty-gritty of what the president or how the president actually enforces the law. So, welcome to the executive branch at work. I'm your host, Mr. Shaw. Let's get right to it. All right, so again, obviously the president can't do everything himself. So he has with him, or underneath him rather, what we call the bureaucracy. And the federal bureaucracy are just all of the agencies and employees of the executive branch. And they are the ones that are in charge of actually enforcing the law. So again, think about really anybody that is a federal government worker that is not specifically in Congress, like an elected official or an appointed official. Some appointed officials do count in the bureaucracy, but not all of them. So really anybody that falls into that is going to be a bureaucrat. Okay, and these bureaucrats are people who work for these organizations, okay, and they are the ones that are actually in charge of enforcing the laws of Congress and the actions of the president and the decisions of the court. So basically, they administer day-to-day operations. Again, you can think of anybody such as immigration officials, people who are, I don't know, the Secret Service would technically count as bureaucrats. The Department of Education has bureaucrats who are helping to enforce education policy. Transportation, people who are working on, writing the rules for roads and for airlines to follow. I mean, again, there's just so many different examples. But in general, that is, these people are helping the president to actually do his job of enforcing and executing the laws of Congress and then the policies of the Supreme Court. Okay, so the thing you need to understand about the government workers is that there are about the bureaucrats is that there's two types. There's political appointees, and these are people whom the president has chosen because they have proven executive ability or support, again, meaning that they can do the job, and they will do the job that the president wants them to do. Again, the president has an agenda, and they want people in power that agree with that agenda and can support the president's agenda, from their role. Again, the employment for these types of roles is usually going to end when the president leaves office. The main group of people that the president appoints and that falls into this category are the cabinet secretaries. So, for example, the Secretary of State, like the Secretary of the Treasury, they are the ones that are going to lead the organizations, the cabinet departments, but they are the ones that are appointed by their president, and they are going to be removed whenever a new president takes over. The other type is civil service workers. So these are permanently employed people who range from clerks all the way to doctors. Okay, and this is like 90% of national government employees are civil service workers, and it's really important to know kind of what they do, because we have just a gigantic government, guys, and there's so much that we trust the government to do, but we need a lot of people, a lot of boots on the ground, so to speak, to actually make sure that these laws and all of these different, policies are getting enforced appropriately. So the way to get a job in the government, I mean, besides being appointee, but the way to get a civil service job is you have to take a test. You have to be qualified for the job. Okay, again, so that's called a civil service system. Okay, and so that's the practice of hiring government workers on the basis of open competitive examinations and on merit. So beforehand, I think that the next slide gets into a little bit into this, but like beforehand, people were just given government jobs without regard for their ability to do those jobs. And it led to a lot of really big problems in the government. Again, you had people who were in charge of really important parts of the government that had no experience or qualifications to run that part of the government. So that's why they eventually switched to the civil service system that is going to allow qualified people to get these important jobs and basically keep the government operating at a very efficient way. I was right. Okay, so again, this is what I was just talking about. Okay, so again, we have two types of systems. Okay, like I just talked to you about the merit system here. Again, that's also called the civil service system, the previous one is called the spoil system. So the spoil system was used before 1883, and the government jobs were given as a reward for political support. So, for example, I would, like, if I worked for, let's say I was a firm supporter of a president that had just won. And so I had been supporting that president for a very, very long time. So then I would get a job based from that president because I had supported him. And so again, it wouldn't matter. Like, he could give me like the I don't know, the postmaster general position for the post office, and I could have no idea how to run, a major postal system. But it wouldn't matter because I got that because I was loyal to the president. Okay, so that, again, government jobs are given as a reward for political support. The Pendleton Act, again, also called the Civil Service Reform Act, placed limits on jobs to friends. So again, that's going to basically end the spoil system, and it's not going to start the merit system. And that is going to, basically, government officials are going to hire workers from lists of people who have passed tests or have met civil service standards. So basically now qualified people only are going to be able to get government jobs. Okay, so I don't want you to write this one. Again, I just wanted you to know that in general, since the beginning of this country, the federal bureaucracy has expanded dramatically. A lot of presidents talk about trying to limit the bureaucracy, but the problem is that you just really can't do it without taking things away from the people. Okay, because again, the government provides a lot for us, and if you decide, oh, you don't want the bureaucracy to be so large, you're going to have to start taking things away, and that's not going to go well to the people. So again, the original bureaucracy only consisted of employees from 3 departments, and that was state, treasury, and war departments. Since 1789, though, the executive branch has grown a ton. That's really the big takeaway. Again, it says, can you speculate on how these events change federal bureaucracy? So again, really all of these things that you see here, Western expansion, Civil War, Industrial Revolution, the Great Depression, World War II, war in Iraq and Afghanistan, again, even 9/11, all of these things are going to, you need more workers, you need more, more government employees in order to be able to do the, fight against these new threats and to deal with these new problems. Think of the Great Depression or even 9/11. Like these, think about 9/11 just in the idea that now we have a whole, system of terrorism that we need to fight, and we're going to need people in our government to be able to do that. Okay, so that is part of the reason why the federal bureaucracy has expanded so dramatically. Okay, so starting off with the cabinet. So again, I mentioned the cabinet earlier. Again, the cabinet is a group of presidential advisors that includes the heads of 15 top-level executive departments. Okay, so the responsibilities of the cabinet is, first and foremost, is going to advise the president on issues related to their department. So, for example, if there's like right now in America, there's because of like all of the winter storms and things like that, there could be transportation issues, planes being grounded, traffic being blocked in certain areas, roads being damaged maybe. And so the Secretary of Transportation, who leads the Department of Transportation, would then brief the president on kind of what's going on with that and what the president needs to know and what the president can do about that. Again, the president is just one man. He doesn't need to know he's not an expert on every single thing that he needs to be in order to run his office effectively. So that's why we have the cabinet members that can be experts in their one field, and they can help advise the president. Also, they'll meet whenever the cabinet anyway will meet with the president whenever the president determines that is necessary. So again, basically just advisors to the president. Okay, again, and here are all of your departments. We're going to work on these later. I'm going to probably go through these in class with you and kind of give you a rundown of what each of these does. Like the Secretary of Labor, for example, that's easy. It has anything to do with just, the workforce. Treasury deals with money, stuff like that. Again, there's just all kinds of different ones, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in class. Just know that basically these try to cover as many aspects of the country as possible. Oh, sorry. Here we go. Okay. again, you can, and this is just a kind of giving, you don't need to write anything down here or even on the last one. Like this was just kind of going through, okay, how we have the Attorney General, who's the leader of the Department of Justice. And then underneath the Department of Justice, this is everything that goes into like that department. Okay. So there's a ton, you see how many offices and how many workers that just one department of the United States is going to need. Again, some well-known sub-agencies of the Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation is the FBI, Drug Enforcement Agency, the DEA, okay, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Again, these are all agencies that are going to do a really good job of, fulfilling. Sorry, I'm going to go back for a second. Of doing the job of the Department of Justice, but also enforcing, federal law. And so this is just really important. Again, I just show you this just so you know, how large even just one department is, and that's going to affect the entire size of the bureaucracy. Okay, so the other parts of the bureaucracy are what we call bureaucratic agencies. So there's 3 types, and these agencies are not under the direct supervision or management by the presidential cabinet department. So again, they are separate from the cabinet departments, and they're really kind of, sometimes they do have, like the head of the agency can be appointed by the president, but these are agencies that really kind of operate on their own. And we're going to talk about why that is in a second. Okay, so the first type is executive agencies. These are the least important type, mostly because they're responsible for really specialized areas. They work closely with government policy, but again, they're research-based a lot, and that is going to include things like NASA. The next one is government corporations. These are businesses that are owned and operated by the government, and they provide services to citizens at a really affordable rate. So, for example, I mentioned the post office earlier. Again, the post office, is owned and operated by the government. They allow the citizens to send mail and packages, wherever they want, and it's fairly cheap. Like, for example, it might take a while, though. It might not be, the best, but we'll get into that in a second. And then the third type is the regulatory commissions, sometimes called independent regulatory commissions. And so the president is going to choose a board of directors and then a general manager of the regulatory commissions with Senate approval. But they don't have to report to the president, and the president cannot fire these members. So this is really important because they need to basically have a little bit of protection for their job, because what they do is not necessarily popular. And again, their goal of these commissions is to protect and serve the public. So, for example, the Federal Communications Commission makes broadcasting rules that is going to protect citizens from, vulgar language and things like that, or like obscene, material that is potentially harmful. And they also have the authority to enforce regulations. They basically will make rules for businesses and people to follow. So, like, for example, the SEC is the Security and Exchange Commission. They ensure truthfulness in stock market pricing so that we can't have another situation like we did during the Great Depression, where people were like, there was a super inflated prices, and then people would be selling, and people were like buying stocks on credit, and then the people would just end up losing everything. So, regardless, again, just for the regulatory commissions, you need to make sure that that these are agencies. The agencies that set and make rules for businesses and people to follow. They also enforce those rules too. Oh, hey, that's it. Okay, so hang on. I thought that I had extra stuff later. So let me go back real quick because I just want to talk to you about the government corporations. So, and the executive agencies. So for executive agencies, do me a favor. I want you to just write research-based here for this one, because that is really the primary example. Like the main other one that I can think of is like the National Science Foundation, which again is it's all research-based. So again, executive agencies are basically anything that is not a business, doesn't operate a business for the people, and it doesn't it doesn't set rules for businesses to follow. So real quick, last side note here about government corporations. So think about the post office. So the post office it provides a service. It's not necessarily the best service. Like if you wanted to send a package and you needed it there tomorrow, you might go to, say, UPS or FedEx and get that done a lot faster. Again, it's going to cost you a lot more money, though. So again, if you wanted to just send a regular letter, you can do that for a mere 50 cents or something like that, plus whatever the cost of the envelope is, and it's going to get there in, say, a couple days or maybe a week or something like that. But again, if you wanted something more specialized, you can go to a private company and they can do that for you. They can do that a lot faster for you. But again, it's going to cost you a lot more money. So again, for government corporations, it's just businesses owned and operated by the government. Amtrak is another one. Again, if you think like, the train system that we have, again, you can, ride from from Kansas City to St. Louis or St. Louis to Chicago, whatever, at a very affordable rate. And it might not be the best, but again, it's owned by the government. And so that is there for you if you would like. Okay. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for you today. Thanks so much for hanging out. And we have now finished the executive branch. And man, has this been delightful. Guys, I love you. I'll see you in the next one.